All right, let's try that again. Hopefully now we've got some sound. Sorry for the technical difficulties. Let's see if this one, let's see, that's Cape Horn action. I tell you, you take like a week or two off from live streaming and you forget how to do it. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm just trying to dial it up on my phone. Make sure. Oh, okay. Okay, we got audio. Week or two off from live streaming and you forget how to do it. Oh, jeez. Hopefully, you guys can hear me. Okay. So now we've got, where's our chats? There they are. Sweet. Awesome. Welcome. It's good to be back on. I've had to take a little break. Oh, jeez. All right, cool. Everybody hears me. That's awesome. Yeah, sorry. It's you take a week off from this sort of stuff and you got to remember all the steps you got to take. I just couldn't get the mic to go. So, but in any event, yeah, dude, I've been working, so got to pay those bills, and so I had to sort of take a little breather on the content creation. But that's neither here nor there. It is Cape Horn action. The other day, Kirsten rounded Cape Horn, and I put a post out actually, congratulating her. And somebody was asking if because she spent a lot of time down there working with Skip Novak and stuff, and they were like, "Well, isn't she already a Cape Horner?" And say, but technically, I think as far as like John Kretschmer describes it, and I think all the old timer sailors describe it, it's if you're rounding Cape Horn, a true rounding means you're going from 50 degrees south on one side all the way to 50 degrees south on the other side. And I mean, Kirsten and all these other sailors are throwing down even harder because they're crossing the entire Pacific and then going to cross the entire Atlantic. And I mean, cheers, hats off to them. It's so awesome. Like this area that they are sailing in is so ridiculous. Like it's when you're down there and they got in really close. Abolish is like right there. I was miles and miles away from Cape Horn. I think I was like 8 miles south of it or something when I was down there. It was the middle of the night. Couldn't see anything. It was blowing pretty hard. But Kirsten went like right up close to it. I'll bet she got some great footage. And then cruised right up. And this little thing, I think that's called Staten Island. You can actually cut in between it. The tide and currents rip like crazy through there. But she stayed just outside of it. I did the same. And then here's the crazy thing. So you get the Falklands up here, but this bank right here shallows way up. And I forget the name of that bank. I think it's probably the Falkland Bank or something. But it's a scary place down there. Like it's really daunting, and all you want to do is get out when you're down there. You're like, get me north, because some of these systems that roll around this far south are just horrendous, and typically you're not getting rain squalls, you're just getting hailstones and just really intense stuff. It's nice because you are kind of close to places where you can safely sort of hide out and take a little bit of shelter. Like you could get into the lee of the Falklands if you wanted to. So it's kind of a game changer there. You're not just way out in the ocean. I mean, they were all going through some pretty ugly stuff, like a week ago as they were making their approach to Cape Horn. And it's really kind of an interesting feeling when you're there. You take that dive down south, and there's sort of like this no turning back feeling. And I don't know, it's strange because you've been out there for months, right? And you're dealing with all sorts of weather systems, but there's something about crossing that 50 degrees south latitude that it's just I don't know. It's like the sea gets a little darker. The sky gets a little angrier. It definitely gets colder, and you just know that you are sailing in a place where you shouldn't be, or at least, no, I shouldn't say that. You just don't want to linger. That's what I used to always say. Just don't linger. Don't linger down there. You want to just keep on moving, and and that'll sort of get you in gear. But I'll tell you, I definitely had quite a few calms. We'd get a big blow for a couple of days, and then I'd be becalmed and struggling just to keep wind in the sails because the sea is all churned up, and definitely the wave action was not fun at all. But yeah, it's so crazy. When I did my trip, I was rationing food from south of Australia all the way across the Pacific. And by the time I got to Cape Horn, I was pretty much out, and I needed to have supplies brought out to me here in the Falklands. And I ended up sailing in. This is so cool. I can just zoom right in. So this is Port Stanley, and I ended up kind of cruising along the coast, middle of the night, just no sleep. Whenever you're close to land out there, you can't sleep, and it's like, because if the boat goes off course or whatever, you're in real trouble. And I ended up getting in here. Let's see. Oh, I can't go in too close. I should do it on Google Earth, but in any event, yeah, I had to pull in up there and just get to a bay where this boat could pull up next to me and throw all these boxes of food over, and then I just kept on drifting out of there, and it was intense. I had no charts for the area, and it's really really scary. But it was also one of the best days ever because now I had all this food. There were a couple bottles of rum, some scotch. Like, it was one of the greatest days of my life. But enough about me. Let's get back to our epic racers. I'm so impressed. They've gotten around so quickly too. I mean, compared to Jean-Luc in the first one, yeah, he ripped this course a new one. But somebody asked me how I would be positioned in here, and I could tell you I'd probably be dead last. Because Sparrow's just a slower boat. I'm telling you. It's just one of those things. The West Sail is a lot of things, and I think if you modified it with the rudder, fairing the gap between the hull and the rudder, supposedly that can give you an extra knot. Maybe excuse me, a different type of prop or something. But in all actuality, I mean, these racers are probably going to finish. Let's see, what day is it for them? 165. 165, 165 days. I was probably uh it's hard to 165, so it would have been 40. Uh yeah, I probably would have been somewhere just entering the Pacific or something like that. So, not in great shape. As far maybe if they ever do a West Sail class, then I'll do it. But yeah, so definitely not out of the woods by any way, shape, or form. Let's just look at the weather because there is this really ugly system, and this just focusing on sort of the area that Kirsten and Abolish are going to be entering into. Um, it looks like they're going to be pretty much out of the woods, but if I hit play on this, look at this system coming down, and I can't remember the term for those systems that come in that direction, but they definitely sort of have a name. But look at that, just ugly. But that's all going to pass because eventually it's going to head off to the east and give them some clear air. But look at that, just another little system right over the Falklands. Definitely ugly and not fun. But hopefully Kirsten can get on the edge of that and then boom, use that to get a good bit of northing in. And then it's really, they actually have to get quite a bit east as well to get around Brazil and all that sort of stuff. But it's not going to be too long before they hit the trade winds. Well, they hit the variables first, which will be a little bit frustrating, and then boom, they're going to hit the trades, and it'll be off to the races, just punishing all the way up to I don't want Windy Premium. Although I would pay for it really because it is such a good site. Oh wow, so that's what they're doing. That's crazy. It used to be free. You could get the whole full forecast, but I guess not anymore. That's a bummer. But hey, everybody's got to pay the bills, right? So yeah, I don't know. Look at this though. It is crazy. Holy smokes. Look at this system form. This is like what you don't want to be dealing with, especially after Cape Horn. Look at that. Oh god, that's ugly. I mean, it looks like essentially a small hurricane, but yeah, that's a Southern Ocean for you. That's what it's made up of. That's what makes this race and this route and this voyage just such an epic endeavor. I don't know, it is so crazy. There was somebody who was talking to me about Mount Everest and how it's such a recognizable epic adventure and epic feat and everything, and how the world of sailing, and especially sailing around the world, doing it alone, doing it without stopping, is such an obscure thing that it's just too bad that most people don't understand it. Uh, Unless you're standing there with a globe in your hand and you say, "Well, this is what you do," then people are basically slack jawed, like, "What?" And then it piques people's interest and they understand the actual scope of an adventure like this. I mean, it really is take a lifetime to prepare for something like this, and once you've done it, it'll be with you for a lifetime as well. So pretty cool. Look at that. Oof. It's gonna get ugly down there, and that actually is just about the time. Sorry, it's kind of early up here, so I am a little all over the place. But let's look back at our racers here, who still are in the. I mean, they're all in the danger zone. But so we got Michael here, and he's riding. I'm gonna just use theirs. He's riding this the edge of this system, and don't that look big and ugly? But if we creep forward a little bit, he should be able to use that to turn back down. And really, Michael just needs to, not that I want to tell him what to do, but he just needs to take advantage of every last little bit of wind he can. That'll give him a good boost in a couple of days, but just try and get there before I think it's the next system. If, this is so far out in the forecast, but that one right there. So let's go back to Windy and see see where that is. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, see that sucker. That's not even the one. It's the next one. Oh, so it's really far out in the forecast. Can't really not gonna base anything off of that, but oh, look at that weather. Who wants to go sailing? Oh, look at that. Oh, geez. It has been just an absolute pleasure. I watched Don McIntyre do his stuff on this. God, he's awesome. I'm so glad that he put this race on and takes the time to stream about it and everything, and just I don't know, it's epic. It's so fun to watch this from the safety of land. I mean, it's fun also to be out there. It's quite an experience, but when you see these big, ugly, crazy systems like that one that ran over Guy, um, have you had your cup of Joe? I'm having it right now. When we watched that system roll over Guy, that was nuts. Like I'm picturing in my head just how gnarly that would have been, how scary, and he was in it for a while, and with the big wind shift and stuff, we're talking crazy wave trains. One wave breaking, another breaking over the top of that one at a different angle. Really dangerous, spectacular stuff, but beautiful as well. I mean, when you see this and you're watching it, even though you're on the deck of a little tiny boat and the waves make you feel about the size of a ping pong ball, it's spectacular. It really is. There's nothing prettier, I think, than seeing like big, large swell rolling around, and as long as they're not breaking and dangerous and threatening your life like what I was going through back in November, then it's absolutely spectacular. It's beautiful. But yeah, I guess let's just take a look and see where everybody else is. So, but big props to Kirsten. That's so awesome. Like she's rounded Cape Horn. She's gonna pass the Falklands. She is just kicking butt. I hope she wins. I hope she wins. I mean, in the beginning of this race, my boy was Elliot. I was like, yeah, dude, a young American. He's all freaking just I don't know. I was definitely jealous, and then obviously like most people, you're gonna have boat problems and things like that, and it just couldn't be overcome. But yeah, I was always sort of my eyeballing on Kirsten and thinking like, boy, it'd be great if she wins this thing. So I'm not gonna jinx it. I don't want to say anything more, but congratulations. And then Abolish, he's getting there. It's going to be really interesting when he rounds. He should round the horn, I think, in the next like 24 hours, I would bet. And he'll have kind of decent weather for it. It looks like. But yeah, and then Michael's already sort of in that danger zone. And then we got these two, and I think they're going to be pretty much in decent weather. We'll get a little. Yeah, I mean, because they're pretty far north. Usually in the Pacific, those systems are rolling. They're pretty far south. It's kind of different from the Indian Ocean in some ways. Chef says hi. Oh, James. Oh, Chief. Hey, Chief. Jim Ogden. Oh, man. Cheers, buddy. I'm going to try and make my way north as soon as I get back to the boat. Well, not that early, but I think in April, I'm going to try and start doing some hops to make my way back up to old Night Marine. Hopefully by the end of May, if possible. But we'll see if you haul me out, maybe. For anybody that doesn't know, one of the people who is watching is my yard manager, my boss, and great guy. Taught me a huge amount about moving boats and not screwing up, even though I still screw up every once in a while. But I'm the low man on the totem pole. But I think this year, if I get back there, I'm gonna learn at least how to drive the big rig a little bit better, or at least be able to back it up. But anyway, sorry, derailed. So yeah, these two, they're doing all right. And then wow, look at that. That's Knox Johnson, where he would be time wise. That's about where I would be, uh, according to my time. And I was doing quite a bit of scraping on the bottom of the boat too. I had actually made this weird, crazy. Hey, what's up, Brian? I made this crazy contraption with a big scraper on the end so I could reach down and get a whole bunch of that stuff. I had to do that a couple of times, and then as soon as I got to a little bit warmer water in the Atlantic, I dove on the boat and scraped as much as I could. Almost killed myself doing it. It's really hard to scrape a boat out in the open ocean when it's rolling. And then I ended up the security line that I had tied from the bow streaming under the boat just to be able to sort of hold on to. I I forgot to pull it in, and I fired up the engine. Totally becalmed out there. I fire up the engine just for its like 2 week little trial, and put it in reverse just to feel the transmission engage, and then I turn it into forward, and all of a sudden, kunk, and tight as a piano wire. This thing, the line got all tangled up in the prop, and and I had just like totally cleaned up. I did a little fresh water rinse on my body after being in the ocean, and had to get back in the water. And by this time, it was almost started like twilight dark. I was not a happy man. So I went down and I cut it all free, and then got back on the boat and had a big rum and I think it was just rum and water at that point, but had a big cocktail after that one. But yeah, so Knox Johnson would be cutting right through. So I'd be if it was just he and I, we'd probably be neck and neck. That'd be exciting. So we got Guy up there. He is, I believe, he's found his a replacement life raft because in his big storm he ended up getting knocked down a couple of times and his life raft came out of the thing and it's gone. But Tasmania is not a hotbed for life rafts, I guess, and but he was able to procure one from somebody else, so he should be, I think, taking off. I haven't heard any more updates because he's officially out of the Golden Globe race, and he's going to be basically on his own. But I believe, from what I understand, he wants to continue and finish the course, which good on him because I would too. To tell you the truth, man, I would do whatever I could to at least keep going. And I guarantee if he does, when he finally finishes and pulls back in, he's going to be so glad that he made that choice. So glad. But other than that, yeah, that's pretty much it for all the updates around there. I just want to take a quick look at the weather in the Atlantic. Pretty typical winter weather stuff. Look at that up in the north. Ugh, gosh, that's ugly. So I'm gonna just switch gears here a little bit. And let's go to Windy. I'm going to talk about me for a little bit here. I hope that's all right. Because, I like doing the updates on the GGR and all that sort of stuff. But there's only so much I can say about it. But yeah, so sooner or later, I need to make my way from South Carolina down here up past Hatteras, up past Cape Cod, and all the way up to Rockland, Maine, which is right about in here somewhere. And that trip I've done, I don't know how many times now, quite a few, and it's going to be interesting. Normally, what I do on this trip, I'll zoom out just a little bit. Normally, what I do is I leave and go due east and cross the stream and get way out here, and then I'll cross the stream again as I get up towards the Gulf of Maine, Georges Bank, and that allows me a little bit of safety, a little less squally, crazy weather. Because when you ride the Gulf Stream, typically, excuse me, the weather systems get a little nutty out there, and you just sort of have to be a bit more on your toes. So if you just cross the stream, go way offshore, then typically it's a more pleasurable route. The only problem is that as you get further and further north, because you're offshore, you don't have any options if a big weather system comes off the coast, which they typically do right around Hatteras, just like you're seeing right there. So let's just check out. If I were to head up, this wouldn't be a bad time to take off right there. Although, nope, now you got the northerly. I mean, it's February, so I'm expecting to see some pretty ugly stuff coming off the coast. It wouldn't be a pleasure cruise, and that's why typically I like to leave in June to do this trip because the Atlantic has pretty much calmed down quite a bit. The only problem is launch season starts before June, or typically June 1st. So, oh, look at that. Yeah, that's pretty ugly. But it is all going in the right direction. Oh, man. That's the sort of stuff that hits the Grand Banks up there and just must be absolutely nuts. Ugh, couldn't even imagine. I've only crossed the Grand Banks one time. Look at that system. Jeez. Oh man, I would not want to be out in that. Let's just take a quick pause on that. Let's see what the gusts look like on that. The North Atlantic is just on fire lately and has been for quite a while. Look at that. That's just ugly. Oh, man. But that's not even the big one. Here comes the big one. Look at it. It stretches all the way from Lake Michigan, bringing all that. Because none of the lakes are frozen up here, so there's a lot of moisture. Oh, look at that. Oh, jeez. Yeah. Ah, look at that. Just absolutely tremendous. That's sort of the stuff you don't want to deal with. But in any event, the fastest time I ever made it up there, and I'm just going to ramble on for a little while till I finish my coffee and then I'll sign out. But the fastest time I ever made that trip from South Carolina to Maine was like 8.5 days or something, and we hit 215 miles in one day using the Gulf Stream. And I say we on that one because I had my buddy from the Appalachian Trail, Bo Jangles. He came on the adventure for his first ever ocean adventure was aboard Mighty Sparrow on I think it's like 1,200-mile offshore trip. But we hooked into the Gulf Stream. We had strong southerlies, and we just ripped all the way up past Hatteras. Kept flying along, and it just carried us for days. And that was pretty cool. I've also had ones where I get off of Hatteras and get there was one just bomb of a squall that absolutely was exhilarating. It only lasted like 3-4 hours, but I got great footage on that one. I think it's in a YouTube short called "Massive Squall" or something. I don't know. It's a short little clip, but it's pretty cool. It was a bit of a rager, and I like those when I know they're gonna, you know, not last all that long. But so that's the other way. Yeah, is you can essentially just go and ride the stream, chase the dragon, as they say, and try and get up there as fast as possible. The other option, which is the one that I may end up doing just because it's Sparrow's still a little bit broken, is to do hops. So, sail from Buford and cruise all the way up to Beaufort and pull in there for a little bit. I may try and find a marina up in there for like April and all that stuff. And then I'm a little closer, and then you can find a good weather window and then hop up to the Chesapeake. The only problem I have with doing the hops is that it's really hard. You can't sleep, and there's a lot of traffic, and every time you're pulling out and pulling into these ports, like you really got to be on your toes. The engine has to be really solid, and to ensure not only your own safety but the safety of others around you. So I always like the offshore because it's sort of my world out there, and I don't have to. There's a lot of things that can go wrong that I don't have to really worry about as long as the boat stays solid. If the engine quits on me out there, I can still make it all the way to Rockland. It's not a big problem. But one of the big questions is, and I've always wanted to do it, is the Cape Cod Canal. That cuts out a serious chunk of this trip. Again, you do have to kind of get into pretty much huge shipping. So the minute you get pretty much up in here, you are not going to sleep at all until you get through the canal, which will probably take a whole day, and get out of Boston Harbor and into the Gulf of Maine proper. I mean, and then you've got all the fishing traffic as well. And the Gulf of Maine's always a bit of a gamble as far as, are you going to be able to sleep? Like, are you going to be sailing through the area where all the fishing boats are or not? I mean, I know when you go past George's Bank, always going to run into the scallopers and all that. But that's typically one night, and then you get middle of the Gulf of Maine, and you can typically get a little sleep. But sometimes you get up there and there's just lights everywhere, and you just have to grin and bear it. And 36 hours later, hope you pull in before a system comes. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll have to see. But I have a little bit more time because it's still winter. I'm headed back to the boat in about a week, and should be able to start working on the cap rail and getting the gallows back on once I actually get them, and then go from there. But we'll have to see. I know the one option that I don't want to do is motoring up the intracoastal, just because that doesn't appeal to me in the least. So we'll just sort of see. But I'll be down there at the marina in South Carolina for another month or so, and then we'll probably start making moves. But other than that, hopefully you enjoyed this rambling show. I don't even know if anybody's still watching it, but whatever. And yeah, again, big props to all the Golden Globe racers. May they be safe and may they get around that horn quickly and get north and be all good. That is it from me.